real case behind Dexter Morgan. Dexter Morgan is one of the most fascinating characters ever created for television. A calm, intelligent forensic blood analyst by day, and a vigilante who follows his own strict moral code at night. But here's something many fans don't know. Some elements of Dexter's personality, psychology, and vigilante mindset were inspired by real cases. People who believed they were delivering justice in their own way. And among those real figures, one name stands out: a former police officer who saw himself as a kind of protector, someone who claimed he only targeted criminals. His name was Manuel Pardo, and his case became one of the most discussed examples when experts analyzed the inspirations behind Dexter's moral complexity. Today we're exploring the real story that helped shape the darker, more realistic parts of Dexter Morgan. Part 1. A man who saw himself as a cleaner. Manuel Pardo started his career as a police officer in Florida. On the surface, he looked disciplined, organized, and committed to justice. But beneath that uniform, there was a growing belief that the legal system wasn't doing enough, that some people who harmed others were slipping through the cracks. And this is where the parallel with Dexter begins. Pardo eventually claimed that he only targeted people he believed were dangerous to society. To him, this wasn't violence. It was cleaning up what the justice system failed to handle. This idea of a self-appointed protector, someone who steps in when the system doesn't, is the foundation of Dexter's entire character. But there's a crucial difference. Dexter's world is fictional and controlled. Real life is not. Pardo's choices eventually crossed every moral and legal boundary, but the mindset behind them fascinated criminologists and screenwriters. Part 2. The Code. A dangerous reality check. Dexter lives by a strict code taught by his adoptive father, Harry. A code that requires absolute proof before he acts. He investigates, analyzes, confirms, and only then does he proceed. In fiction, this creates the illusion that vigilante justice can be clean and controlled. Pardo, however, created a personal code of his own, but without the science, without the precision, and without the guarantee that he was right. His judgment was based on assumptions and personal beliefs, rather than evidence. This contrast is exactly why his case is studied today. It highlights something the Dexter writers wanted viewers to understand. The fantasy of a perfectly controlled vigilante is just that, a fantasy. Real-life attempts to imitate that mindset are unstable and unpredictable. Part 3. Insider knowledge, outsider morality. Just like Dexter uses his forensic skills and deep understanding of crime scenes, Pardo used his knowledge from his time in law enforcement. He knew how investigations were structured, how police thought, how evidence was collected, and how long it took to connect different pieces of a case. Fascinated by this idea. Someone who understands the system so well that they can operate outside of it. But there's another theme here too, one that the show explores in almost every season. A person who once worked inside the law, becoming someone who lives completely outside of it. A transformation driven not by chaos, but by a belief that they are serving a greater purpose. Pardo's story became a real-world example of this psychological shift, a reminder of how thin the line can be between justice and justification. Part 4. The psychology that inspired Dexter. Professionals who studied Pardo identified several traits that strongly resemble the psychological blueprint used to create Dexter. A belief in moral superiority, a feeling of responsibility to protect society, emotional detachment, a ritualistic sense of purpose, and a strict internal logic. Dexter is written as someone shaped by trauma, guided by rules, and obsessed with control. Pardo's real psychology showed that similar belief systems can appear in real individuals, but without structure, without boundaries, and without safeguards. This is why so many crime experts say Pardo's case helped writers refine Dexter's character, not because they copied the events, but because it revealed how a person might justify extreme actions in the name of justice. Part 5. A real case that shaped a fictional world. It's important to be clear, Dexter Morgan is not based entirely on any single real person. He's a blend of psychological studies, interviews with criminal profilers, and several real-world cases, including Pardo's. Writers used these inspirations to answer deeper questions. What makes a person believe they're the only one who can deliver justice? What happens when, morality becomes something you define for yourself? And why are people drawn to characters who live outside the rules? Pardo's story didn't create Dexter, but it added realism to him. The uncomfortable reminder that the line between hero and villain isn't as simple as it seems. Ending. The truth behind the darkness. So what does the real case behind Dexter teach us? It shows that the idea of a vigilante isn't just a fictional concept. Real people have believed that they were correcting the failures of society, but unlike Dexter's carefully controlled world, real-life actions have real consequences. Dexter exists so we can safely explore moral gray zones, trauma, and the psychology of justice, all within the protected space of fiction. Manuel Pardo's case reminds us why that boundary is necessary. It's a look into what happens when someone takes that idea into the real world and proves why vigilantes can only truly exist on screen. And maybe that's exactly why Dexter remains so fascinating. He reflects a fantasy built on just enough truth to make it feel real and just enough danger to remind us that some lines should never be crossed.